Paul Catalina. Let's start with the Big 12. 4 teams right now. TCU, Texas, Kansas State, and Baylor plays all 3 of them the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, and for the most part, in the last month, that's kind of almost the round robin, save a couple little outliers there. But with Oklahoma State's loss to Kansas this week, that puts them, I guess, technically out of it for now. I mean, a lot of things would have to happen. So now you've got 4 teams that all kind of control their own destiny on their way to Arlington, and Baylor being one of them after a month ago looking like a team that, couldn't find its way and had no intensity. That win in Norman this week showed some intensity, especially at the end of the game. They held off, they won a 3-point game. They held off a charge from the Sooners and won that one. Kansas State falls to Texas, which, shouldn't be a surprise. Coming off a big win like that and Texas coming off the bye, but, fought and scratched and clawed, and Texas had to hold off another comeback attempt, which they didn't do against Oklahoma State. And TCU continues to roll.
You want me to just go all the way around here?
Well, let's do the Big 12, and then we'll kind of jump into certain parts about it. But go ahead and give your summary of what you saw, because there's a lot to get to. Our first guest will be the voice of TCU and Brian Estridge, and then the UCF's voice of athletics, Mark Daniels, 3:45 and 4 today.
Yeah, I thought Baylor was going to go on to Norman and win. I think we all did, and, it wasn't easy by any means. That's certainly a game if you're an Oklahoma fan or you're their coaches, and I know, especially with their coaches, hearing them after the game, they felt like they let that one get away, and they felt like, if not for those 3 interceptions in the first half by Dylan Gabriel, then maybe that's a different ball game, but he did throw 3 interceptions, and, that's as much credit to Baylor's defenders getting their hands up as it was anything that Dylan Gabriel was doing. So they made those plays by getting their hands up in traffic and deflecting those balls, and, and at the same time, they only scored 10 points off those turnovers.
Yep, I know.
Like, that wasn't, as though it blew the game open. It did steal possessions, but they only scored 10 points to OU's credit. So you look at that, you look at the 49-yard field goal made by John Mayers, and those were the deciding points in that game. But really, that was Squirrel Williams. That was his game in the rushing attack. But he was fantastic. The O-line did a great job of just mauling, all day long and allowing him just enough room to be able to slip through and do what he does so well. So, I didn't think the passing game was really much to talk about other than just some tough catches that were made. But that was all about Squirrel on Saturday. And then the defense just ultimately getting enough stops and getting those 3 turnovers. So big win for Baylor. This is TCU, and then whoever is going to finish with TCU, basically. The Frogs, again, by the skin of their teeth, practically, able to, not quite go down to the wire, but Texas Tech, had that game, there for the taking again, and I know Joey McGuire's got to be really disappointed, but yet another game where TCU wins late and finds a way, and it doesn't seem like a real great recipe to keep going and lasting week after week, but here they are, another week where they fought and pulled it out at the end, so you have to give them a ton of credit for that. I do think that they are a completely different team without Quentin Johnston healthy, and not nearly as formidable of a team, especially if they run into somebody who can actually stop the run pretty well. That's going to be their upcoming schedule is going to really say everything that needs to about TCU. They need to get Quentin Johnston back, though, but good on them for just being able to get a win. Texas, really impressive. Should have won by more than 7, in my opinion. I don't know what all went into the idea to start Adrian Martinez over Will Howard. I wonder how many K-State fans wonder about how that might have looked differently. But I felt like Texas was pretty much in control the whole night. And that final score, I don't even feel like is really indicative of the way they, in my opinion, controlled that game.
What they did in the first half is what frightens you a little bit.
Yeah.
Not frightens, that's not the word. It kind of makes you go, whoo, yeah. That's explosivity right there.
The only time Kansas State, again, felt like they were about to turn the corner was if Adrian Martinez makes a big play on that last drive.
Yeah.
That was it. Like, okay, when they got it to they're within a touchdown, then you've got like, oh, hey, now they're maybe awake here a little bit, but other than that, like, it was Texas's game.
It was 31-10 at halftime. It's 31-10 at halftime. So the fact that it was even a close game, Texas only scored 3 points in the second half, and it was in the fourth quarter. Terrific job by K-State, but that game could have been a blowout based on the way the first half went. So I felt like Texas showed some showed some muscle there, even if they didn't finish it out real strong. But as I've heard ad nauseum from people, like another Texas team would have lost that game and have choked that game away, and that very well could be true, but a good win for them otherwise. Iowa State, good for them just to win a Big 12 game. Obviously, there's a lot of buzz going on in Morgantown right now about Neil Brown and his staff and what all's actually happening at the moment with that. I'm not quite sure, but I know there's a lot of scuttlebutt about it. Just another bad loss for them. And a good win for Iowa State. Had a huge fourth quarter to help, propel them ultimately, but just nice for them to get a win. And then finally, Kansas over Oklahoma State. Great win for the Jayhawks. Jason Bean was, pretty good, but really that was the Devin Neal show. A historic day from him. He was amazing. And, Oklahoma State is just a mess, obviously, right now. No Spencer Sanders, which we weren't sure about. You kind of had a feeling that was going to be the case. Sure enough, he doesn't play. A bunch of other guys don't play. And Kansas just tore them apart and left no doubt about it. So good on the Jayhawks. Congrats on being bowl eligible. Baylor's now bowl eligible. Texas is now bowl eligible. And I think that's it from this weekend. But
those who are this weekend earned bowl
that earned
eligibility.
it this weekend. Those three did.
Yeah, Kansas graphic, you want to put this up real quick? We have a lot to get to, a ton of get to. So they tore down the goalpost, as they should. If anyone's going to storm the field, it should be Kansas. They did. They tore down the goalpost. And unlike, remember, Tennessee did the GoFundMe thing, and they have Kansas goes, no GoFundMe needed, as they've already put up the new goalpost. A little shade at Tennessee. And, I'm sure volunteer fans probably get a little bit flustered about that. Before we go any further,